Hi, everybody. It is May 20th, 2026. Welcome to Ecker Geopolitics. We're going to be covering all of the news. We're going to be covering the Iran war, how the U.S. basically just boarded a bunch of Iranian vessels. We're going to be covering the Thomas-Massie defeat by Ed Galrain in the Kentucky GOP primary. And then we're also going to be covering all of the markets and how this is impacting everything, along with maritime traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. And we're going to analyze all of the flight tracking and all of this other stuff. A lot of other articles and big news as well. We're going to be covering Ukraine and Russia. Going to be covering it all. So be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and let's get right into the news. Again, this was very big news today. Again, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and again, be a part of the show. U.S. Representative Thomas-Massie loses Kentucky GOP primary to Ed Galrain in another victory for Trump. Again, the question is this truly going to be a victory for Trump, or is this going to be a victory for AIPAC? Is this going to be a victory for the big money in D.C.? And it appears that the big money in D.C. won. Ad spend, it was about $16.3 million that was spent on Ed Galrain's victory. $33 million spent in total for this entire race. Okay, so pretty big. Again, this was huge. This is Thomas-Massie after his defeat and kind of everything that went on after that.
Come out sooner, but I had to call my opponent and concede, and it took a while to find Ed Galrain in Tel Aviv.
True though.
I did get the call through, though. I have called and conceded the race. We've been honorable the whole time, and we're going to stay that way. But here's one thing I saw on Fox. They were saying, oh my goodness, we're ready for war. We're about to restart this war. We were supposed to restart this war today, but we can't restart this war today. The war can't start today. They said we got to wait a day. And then it occurred to me, where was the Secretary of War yesterday? He was here. Listen. Wait. No, look on the bright side.
No more war, they're chanting.
No more wars. No more wars. No more wars.
And they also, all of the crowd basically wanted Thomas-Massie to run for president. He was like, should I run for Congress again? And then they put their hands up like, no, go up, run for president.
Guys,
he should run for president,
knock
in my
that
opinion.
off.
I think he'd be a great
feel good
candidate.
About losing. What I wanted to do was give you all credit. When they saw the influencers here, they panicked. They sent the Secretary of War here, and you stopped the war for a day.
So, yes, that was Thomas-Massie, and again, lots of big news when it comes out to that. Again, the real consensus here is that the AIPAC money really won here, right? And ultimately, that's kind of what happened. It's very sad to see, but if you really look at it, it was also the boomers who came out and pretty much voted for Ed Galrain. They were swayed by the Navy SEAL career and that kind of persona. So that is why Ed Galrain did end up getting a lot of votes and support. So with that being said, it tells us that the younger generation is far more in tune to politics today. Okay, and so I had made this short. We ended up getting 13 likes on it. Representative Thomas-Massie has been unseated by AIPAC's Ed Galrain in what is now the most expensive House primary in U.S. history. So again, the Zionists have won Kentucky U.S. House Republican primary, Ed Galrain. So yes, AIPAC has won because of their money. Not because the American people, but because... Sorry, boomers, again, but you guys have just not been paying attention to what's going on. Okay, and if you think I'm wrong, what was up with this statement from Donald Trump today? Seriously, take a look at this.
Right now, at 99% in Israel, I could run for prime minister. So maybe after I do this, I'll go to Israel, run for prime minister. I had a poll this morning. I'm 99%. So that's good. But
35% support in the United States, right? So also big news, the U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, has announced that the elements of the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit from the USS Tripoli, LHA-7, Amphibious Ready Group, ARG, conducted a boarding operation on the Iranian-flagged motor tanker Celestial Sea in the Gulf of Oman in the support of the U.S. blockade of Iran. Following a search, U.S. forces released a vessel, directing its crew away from the Iranian ports. To date, U.S. forces have redirected 91 vessels during the blockade, disabling 4 more. Here's some footage of that. This comes from directly from OSINT Defender on X. Here's some footage of what we saw today. Huge news in the Strait of Hormuz. Keeps on going. I think the Iran war is going to continue, personally, from my analysis. That's kind of just what it appears to be, based on the patterns and based on everything we've been seeing over the past few days. Who knows? But looks like the war is going to be continuing, and it doesn't look like we're going to be ending anytime soon. But what do you think? Do you think the Iran war will continue? Do you think Trump is playing 5D chess? Or do you think Trump is going to do whatever Netanyahu asks him? Trump, on the other hand, believes that he is in control of Netanyahu. But we'll get back into that in a moment. U.S. military boards Iranian-flagged oil tanker suspected of trying to breach the blockade. The U.S. military U.S. military said Wednesday that it boarded an Iranian-flagged oil tanker in the Gulf of Oman that was suspected of trying to violate the American blockade, the latest action by the Trump administration to try to push Tehran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Trump says he's in no hurry to make an Iran deal. So again, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Typical Trump. You can't really predict what's going to happen. All you can predict is that the war is probably going to continue and that the United States is not going to give up that Strait of Hormuz so easily. But President Donald Trump is facing his own pressure at home for shipping to resume through the vital corridor of Iran's coasts. Fellow Republicans in Congress are battling political headwinds ahead of November's midterm elections as gasoline prices skyrocket and global energy markets churn. Meanwhile, the Senate on Tuesday advanced legislation seeking to force Trump to withdraw from the Iran war, with a growing number of Republicans defying the president in a 50-47 vote. U.S. Central Command said on Monday that the MT Celestial Sea was searched and redirected after being suspected of trying to head to an Iranian port. It's at least the 5th commercial vessel to be boarded since the Trump administration imposed the blockade on Iranian shipping in mid-April, several days into ceasefire to pressure Tehran into opening the strait and accepting a deal to end the war. The military boarded the tanker after Trump said Monday he had called off renewed military strikes on Iran in an effort to make a progress in negotiations to end the war. Trump said he had planned a very major attack for Tuesday, but put it off, saying America's allies in the Gulf asked him to wait 2 to 3 days because they feel they are close to a deal. Again, so what does that tell us? We got to pay attention to everything that could be happening in these next 2 to 3 days. Expect a strike from the United States in 2 to 3 days under the guides of Israel. Trump has repeatedly set deadlines for Tehran and then backed off. Before a U.S. blockade, Tehran had allowed some ships perceived as friendly to pass while charging considerable fees, leading to accusations it's holding global economy hostage. The U.S. military said that it had 1,550 vessels from 87 countries who are currently stranded in the Persian Gulf. Nearly 3 months since the war began with the U.S. and Israeli strikes on February 28th, Iran maintains a chokehold on the strait, while the U.S. military has enforced its blockade on Iranian ports as well as Iranian-linked ships that are far away from the Middle East. Last month, U.S. forces boarded an oil tanker previously sanctioned for smuggling Iranian crude oil in the Bay of Bengal in the Indian Ocean. A couple days later, U.S. seized another tanker associated with smuggling Iranian oil in the Indian Ocean between Sri Lanka and Indonesia. In early May, Trump said that the U.S. military would begin to guide stranded ships from the Iranian-gripped strait. The next day, he announced that the effort to protect ships was paused to see if an agreement could be reached. Days later, U.S. forces fired and disabled 2 Iranian oil tankers after exchanging fire with Iranian forces in the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. military said the tankers were trying to breach the blockade. The day before, the military said it had thwarted Iranian attacks on 3 Navy ships and struck Iranian military vessels in response. So again, that comes directly from PBS News. And again, as we continue looking at some of these articles, it tells us a story that this war is not ending anytime soon. And again, we're going to look at all of the maritime traffic as well. And we're going to analyze the Strait of Hormuz and why this war is likely to continue based on the activity and the patterns that we're seeing. Iran claims a coordinated passage of 26 vessels out of Hormuz in 24 hours. The IRGC claims to maintain control over the Strait of Hormuz despite the U.S. blockade in Iranian ports. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, had said it coordinated the transit of 26 vessels through the Strait of Hormuz in the past 24 hours, as talks between Washington and Tehran over the resumption of traffic through the narrow waterway remain stalled. Traffic through the Strait of Hormuz is being carried out with permission and its coordination with the IRGC Navy. The statement carried by Iran's state-affiliated ISNA news agency said on Wednesday. Putin meets Xi, why Russia and China need each other. U.S. Senate advances resolution to curb Trump's power to wage war in Iran, and Vance said that the U.S. is locked and loaded for military action if Iran talks fail. These were just other articles by Al Jazeera. About a fifth of global energy exports used to pass through the strait before the beginning of the United States-Israel war on Iran on February 28th, which prompted Tehran to blockade the waterway. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration responded by imposing a blockade on Iranian ports, choking Iranian oil exports and the country's key source of revenue. The standoff has put a huge strain on the global energy markets, as well as raising concerns over a looming humanitarian catastrophe. On Wednesday, the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, the FAO, warned that the blockade could trigger a severe global food price crisis within 6 to 12 months, calling the disruption the beginning of a systemic agri-food shock. The Rome-based agency said that the disruption is no longer a shipping or energy market problem, warning that the shock is moving through the global agri-food systems in stages. The shock is unfolding in stages: energy, fertilizer, seeds, lower yields, commodity price increases, and then food inflation. Stalled talks. On Wednesday, Trump spoke about the progress made in negotiations with Iran, but he also threatened to resume military action if Iran does not agree to a deal. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi warned the return of a war will feature many more surprises. The IRGC also said that if Iran is attacked again, it would widen the conflict by extending fighting, this time beyond the region. Will Todman, senior fellow at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, told Al Jazeera that the warring sides seem convinced that extending their respective blockades will earn them more leverage against each other. I think it's very difficult to see if something that will fundamentally change the calculation, because both sides seem to believe that the longer this goes on, the greater the leverages will be, because the more their opponents will be suffering economically, Todman said on Wednesday. So again, when we look at these stories, you really can tell that this war, again, is not really ending anytime soon. Trump can say that. They will keep saying that in the media. They may keep trying to push that narrative in the media, but ultimately, from my looks of it, looks like this war is not going to end anytime soon. What do you think? Are we going to continue this Iran war or not? Trump says Netanyahu will do whatever I want on Iran, and he's in no hurry to make a deal. So this was also a big statement by CBS News. And when we look at all of this, it's actually quite interesting to see how all of this is playing out. This is by Frank Andrews and Sarah Lynch Baldwin. What to know about the Iran war today? President Trump said Wednesday that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will do whatever I want him to on Iran. Mr. Trump said that he's in no hurry to make a deal to end the war. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard has threatened to push the war beyond the region if the U.S. or Israel resumes attacks, promising crushing blows in places you cannot even imagine, end quote. The threat comes after President Trump said he has been an hour away from ordering new strikes on Iran Monday before the Persian Gulf allies asked him not to go ahead with the plan, citing progress in peace talks. So that's huge. So again, more statements from Trump saying that I was an hour away from striking Iran and I held back. Meanwhile, we also have to look at all of the news happening in Israel today, which this was the newest of information that we learned. Israeli security minister stirs diplomatic outrage with flotilla activist abuse video. Far-right figure Itamar Ben-Gvir shares footage of himself taunting bound international detainees. So again, if you didn't know about this story, Israel's far-right national security minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has sparked with diplomatic crisis after publishing footage of Israeli security forces abusing international activists who were detained as they tried to sail Gaza with aid. So think about this. How are they really continuing this war where, well, they are basically constricting anybody or restricting anybody from really bringing aid to the West Bank of Gaza? And when you look at all of this, it's pretty telling to see where we're at during this war. Okay, so this is the video that this article is referring to. This went viral today on X. So this could be at the Megiddo prison, the Megiddo prison in Israel, just south of Nazareth. I'm guessing that this is where this is. Looks like it based on the prison. And again, these were the Gaza people trying to bring aid to Gaza. This is who the Israelis had rounded up, and now these people are probably in the Megiddo Israeli prison. Oh boy.
Free Palestine!
So again, this was that video that what everybody has been talking about. Ultimately, that's pretty much what people are saying. And at the end of the day, I look at this and it's just like, listen, at the end of the day, you're not allowed to talk about this, but you see why. Okay, because these are the people who are taking over the world and trying their best to, and with all of these efforts, again, and if you say anything about it, you are scorned. But as an analyst, I have to look at all of this, and ultimately we have to be able to report on what's actually happening in the news, right? U.S. and Israel plan to install Ahmadou for, oh my God, man, I even practiced this pronunciation before this, Ahmadinejad as Iranian leader, New York Times says. Mohammed Ahmadinejad was being lined up by the U.S. and Israel and Iran similarly to Rodriguez after Maduro in Venezuela. The United States and Israel went to war on Iran, intending to replace the regime's leadership with a hardline former President Mohammed Ahmadinejad, the New York Times reported. Quoting U.S. officials who were briefed on the audacious plan, the newspaper said things quickly went awry when Ahmadinejad's current whereabouts and conditions are unknown. After the killing of Ayatollah al-Khamenei, U.S. President Donald Trump mused that it would be best if someone within Iran took the country, the Times reported. To say that Mr. Ahmadinejad was an unusual choice would be a vast understatement. While he had increasingly clashed with the regime's leaders and had been placed under close watch by the Iranian authorities, he was known during his term as president from 2005 to 2013 for his calls to wipe Israel off the map. He was a strong supporter of Iran's nuclear program, a fierce critic of the United States, and known for violently cracking down on internal dissent. The newspaper noted, however, that in a 2019 interview, Ahmadinejad praised President Donald Trump and argued for a rapprochement between Iran and the U.S. Mr. Trump is a man of action, he said, quoting, "He is a businessman, and therefore he is capable of calculating cost benefits and making a decision. We say to him, let's calculate the long-term cost benefit of our two nations to not be short-sighted." The Times said that Trump was relishing the success of the Special Forces raid that kidnapped Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and willingness of his interim replacement, Delcy Rodriguez, to work with the White House and believed the same model could be replicated in Iran. So, pretty wild. So again, the war's heating up in the Middle East. When we look at all of it, the EU is also getting involved now. EU lawmakers back U.S. trade pact with built-in safeguards. We see all of that happening as well. Okay, so the European Parliament and EU Council agreed to eliminate tariffs on U.S. industrial goods, retaining power to suspend cuts if Washington, D.C. exceeds the agreed-upon duties. European Union lawmakers reached a tentative deal on Wednesday to scrap import tariffs on all U.S. industrial goods and give some U.S. agriculture and seafood products easier access to the bloc's market, the European Parliament said in a May 20 press release. The Parliament and Council of the European Union moved to write into EU law a framework trade accord reached with the U.S. in August of 2025. Simultaneously, they empowered the European Commission, the bloc's executive arm, to suspend some or all of the new trade tariff breaks if Washington, D.C. allows duties on European steel and aluminum derivative products to climb above the agreed 15% ceiling. We need a safety net in the relation of the United States because the moment it's totally unsecure and it's predictable how the United States are acting in the fields of tariffs, Bernard Long, chair of the European Parliament's International Trade Committee, said at a press conference. Therefore, we as the European Parliament made a clear statement with 417 votes for such a safety net. The co-legislators agreed that the commission could suspend tariff preferences awarded to the U.S. if, by December 31st, 2026, the country continues to apply a tariff higher than the agreed-upon rate for the EU steel and aluminum derivatives. The commission must report to Parliament and the Council by December 1st. The favorable treatment of U.S. farm and seafood products will expire on December 31st, 2029, under a sunset clause per the release. Before that date, the Commission must perform a comprehensive assessment of the regulation's trade effects on EU industry, agriculture, and small to medium mid-sized enterprises, as well as changes in trade patterns in third world countries. Based on these findings, the Commission may propose legislation to extend the regulation. The legislative bodies also agreed to extend tariffs-free U.S. lobster imports until July 31st, 2030, and extend the same treatment to proceed lobster products. This will apply retroactively in August 1st, 2025. So again, the EU lawmakers back the U.S. trade pact with built-in safeguards. That's great news for the United States. The EU and the United States are continuing to work together, and at the end of the day, this is good for the entire war. If we're looking at a globalist kind of viewpoint, which we do have to do in a time of globalism, these are all victories for the United States. Meanwhile, this comes from the Economic Times. This is a video to answer the question, Admiral Cooper. Jason Crow goes nuclear on CENTCOM chief over laws of war.
It is prohibited to utter that no quarter be given.
It prohibits a large number of things.
No, I've asked
and
you.
I will follow.
I just read the provision to you. Answer the question, Admiral Cooper. You have tens of thousands of service members under your command.
I will say that we will follow the law of armed conflict to the T.
This is just unbelievable to me.
I find the same thing, sir.
This is not leadership. This is not leadership.
Mr. Chairman, I
It's
object.
willing
This
to
is a
say-
personal attack. This is unfair.
This is well within the purview of my questioning.
If I may.
Gentleman's time.
All I want you to say is what the provision says.
I will follow the law to the T.
This is extremely disappointing. Our service members deserve far better than this. Thank you, Chairman. Admiral
And so again, that was just a summary of what happened today with the CENTCOM chief over laws of war and how he was getting grilled today in Congress. So very interesting to look at all of that. We also have news with the Ukraine-Russia war. Ukraine-Russia war latest. Poland warns we may need to react firmly against Moscow after drone incursions. So again, that's a video of President Xi and Vladimir Putin. This happened today.
Putting in work to redeem your credit
And advertisements, because everything in 2026 is an ad. There we go. And it looks like it's just footage of these two men basically working out a negotiation. And so, not much to see there. They're just walking. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has warned that that NATO may need to react firmly to Russia's war in Ukraine after a drone incursion in Lithuania. He told a news conference on Wednesday, I want to repeat, and fortunately I am not alone today, that the Ukrainian-Russian war is soon to lead to a situation where we all have to react firmly. NATO scrambled fighter jets in response to reports of a drone incursion in Lithuania. The country's defense ministry said the drone flew near to Vilnius, pursued by warplanes as the army told people to take shelter and close the airport. It comes as Vladimir Putin told his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping on Wednesday that the relations between their countries were at an unprecedentedly high level as the two discussed wider economic cooperation and foreign issues. Speaking on a visit to Beijing, the Russian president called Xi a dear friend and noted that the long-standing relationship on trade, saying the turnover has increased more than 30 times in the last 25 years. Putin insisted that Russia and China play a stabilizing role on the world stage as the pair signed a joint statement for a comprehensive strategic coordination. So Russia and China are very buddy and very close. We already know that, and this is what the United States is fighting for now. So it leaves to open the question, listen, is Russia and China working together to secure this entire Iran war in the Strait of Hormuz? Ultimately, that's what it looks like to me if you really pay attention. So when we look at some of the newest headlines here, Anthropic expects 130% revenue surge to $10.9 billion in the June quarter, and its first operating profit with Wall Street, or per the Wall Street Journal. Sounds of Summer at the Congressional Picnic, postcard edition. Excited to welcome the PWHL official to the Golden State. The Bay Area is home to one of the largest ice facilities in Western. So, yeah, when we look at a lot of these different stories, there's a lot of news happening all over the Middle East today. And so when we look at the Middle East specifically, everything has to glitch on me. We are seeing that the Strait of Hormuz and that there's a lot of big news in Israel as well. A lot of big news. So when we look at these different stories, one thing nice about Glint Trade is that it gives you these breaking stories and what's kind of happening here. Will any country expect an Israeli ambassador by December 31st? Okay, you have other big stories that went viral. U.S. and Iran permanent peace deal by July 31st, 2026. And again, a lot of people are saying that this could happen. Okay, so very interesting to see there. So when we look at all of this, you have to pay attention to all of the big headlines that are happening all around. It's not just about, analyzing everything that's going on in the war, but you have to analyze like very specific things. You got to study the biggest stories happening in the media, and that's exactly what we're doing. Okay. Trump told Netanyahu that the mediators were working on a letter of intent that both the U.S. and Iran would sign to formally end the war and launch a 30-day period of negotiations on issues like Iran's nuclear program and opening the Strait of Hormuz, a U.S. source said. Okay, so again, all big news and big stories. So now we're going to break into the maritime traffic happening right now in the Strait of Hormuz, going to look at really what's going on. Okay, what's different from yesterday? So we have to identify that the congestion is still here. You still have a cluster of basically cargo vessels, and you got a lot of big tankers. That's what these red dots are. These red triangles that you're seeing are usually LPG tankers or LNG, liquefied natural gas tankers. And this is huge because insurers are not feeling great about the war. However, okay, when we zoom in, you are also seeing more traffic going through the Strait of Hormuz today versus yesterday at this same time when we looked. Okay, so now you're starting to get a little bit more flow through, but that also could mean more offensive operations by the United States. That also could mean this blockade has a lot to do with it, and maybe the United States is on the offense here. At the same time, you're having a lot of different insurance companies that are still feeling uneasy about this. So that's why you're getting a lot of clustering with this with all of these crude oil tankers and with all of these different cargo ships, cargo vessels, fishing boats, bulk carriers, all of it. Okay, lots of different stuff, okay? When you actually look at the Strait of Hormuz, you got these blockades that are already pretty much set up here. Iranian container ship. You have all sorts of different ships. The Sheba Iranian container ship. So Iran's got their own blockade near Hormuz here. And then you also have the United States who is playing into this game. Okay, crude oil from SOFA 1. And all of this is telling us that this war is only heating up. Okay, you have a lot of anchorage near Hama and Sharah. Okay, very important to note that these insurance companies are taking note of this war and paying attention to all of the risk, okay? However, you're seeing a little bit less clustering, which means that there's more potentiality for trade, although this war is still continuing. Make no mistake about it. So again, LNG tanker, you have another LNG tanker. So all these tankers are docked up near Qatar, again, back over here near Fujairah. Then you'll see these clusters in Dammam. And again, mostly fishing boats here, it looks like. Fishing boats, you have passenger ships, fighting vessel, all this kind of stuff. Okay, and then we have to pay attention to all these clusters at Karg Island. Karg Island also has more action. So you're seeing more ships around Karg Island, which the United States said they wanted to put more ships around Karg Island. So very important to take note of that. And again, when you look at actually what's on Karg Island, this is basically a fast track of a lot of energy for Iran. Okay, so that is why the United States wants this. It's a big energy hub. And you got airports, and you got basically a lot of different energy that is imported to this specific island. If the United States were able to take that, then the United States would be able to control it. Okay, so you're constantly getting Iranian vessels going in and out of Karg Island, and that's why Trump really wants it. We want to control that trade that goes to that area. Okay, but in the meantime, we still have all these anchored ships over here. Again, mostly more products tankers, oil products tanker here. You have crude oil tankers, same thing. That's typically what you're going to see when you see these little red dots. all these different countries. Remember, the United States, you'll never really see a United States flag. You're going to almost always see Liberia. You're going to see the Marshall Islands. You're going to see a lot of different proxy countries, right, that represent the United States. Oil, chemical tankers. This is really what you're seeing in the Strait of Hormuz today and in the Persian Gulf, which is what we just looked at. Meanwhile, we have more clustering and more flow through in the Red Sea, so it's getting a little bit more active over here in the Red Sea, whatever that means, as well as the Suez Canal, but there does seem to be more anchorage over here in the Suez Canal, as we can see, just north of the Suez Canal, near the Sutter Cape. So again, a lot of docking, not a lot of anchorage. You always have to pay attention to Port Said because a lot of insurers, these ships will hang out over here if there's not really a lot of trade and movement. You also have to pay attention to Cyprus, just north of here. And again, looks like there's a lot of trade happening around Cyprus, as we can see from this maritime traffic, right? Crude oil tankers are kind of going here because that is a big hub for the United States and the EU, basically to do a lot of our trade. Okay, and then when we look at the Israel West Bank, not a lot of traffic going to maybe to Tel Aviv, but nothing going to Gaza. Okay, a lot of trade up the entire coast of Israel, except for West Gaza. Okay, and then, interestingly enough, we know that the Israelis wanted to take southern Lebanon, and we have absolutely no maritime traffic over here in this area. Very important to notice. And again, we looked over this the other day, all of the UN centers that have been strategically placed near all of these battlefields and places that have already been somewhat attacked in Lebanon, in southern Lebanon. Okay, and they said the Israelis want the Golan Heights, which is basically this entire area that we covered yesterday in yesterday's episode. So again, we have very limited maritime traffic happening there. But the Red Sea, we also see more of that continued movement flowing. We've got a straight line here of ships flowing through inward and outward, container ships with crude oil tankers. And again, more clustering over here, but also more movement. So there is trade happening. But insurance companies are still making that risk. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, we continue to have traffic flowing through this area of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Very important to look at. So as much as this war is taking a hit on the entire world, and we're seeing it with the cost of it, one of the main reasons is because a lot of these tankers have to go all around the southern tip of Africa here and around the entire continent itself, just to basically accomplish the trade. As you can see that motion and that flow from the southern tip of Africa, and they have to go all around Africa into Europe, into Cyprus, and make these longer destinations, longer trips. These ships do not want to go through the Strait of Hormuz because, as you can see from all of the articles we've read at already, Iranian tankers are being attacked, right? U.S. tankers are being attacked. There are mines in the Strait of Hormuz and in the Red Sea and in the Suez Canal. We also have to understand that there are drone strikes that are taking place in all these areas. So very important to look at. Okay, and then lastly, when we look at Singapore, we also have a lot of big trade that happens here, right? Singapore is a big location for U.S. trade and, as well as Sri Lanka. And we have a lot of trade that happens there. Okay, so very important to notice that all of these things are coming into play. Okay, a lot of trade happening here, more congestion here in Sri Lanka, southern India, kind of where you'll see a lot of that. And then when we looked at flight tracking today, we noticed that, well, we just timed out apparently, so we'll just keep moving on. Flight tracking really wasn't much activity. We had just tracked a European flight that was going to these different areas that we need to know about. So how has this impacted the oil markets today? So when we look at oil somewhat collapsed, right? As in the title goes. So WTI crude oil, $99.12, which is good. We're stabilizing that oil market. As of right now, we have the Brent crude at $105. We have Murban crude at $103.02 and 20 cents, and natural gas at $3.03. So again, those prices, though, in the United States, we're still feeling it. You're seeing gas prices anywhere from $5 to $8, depending on what state you live in. Very important to notice. Very, very important. So again, when we look at this, we'll start looking and analyzing the markets now and seeing what's new with that. Oil plunges as Trump says the U.S. is in final stages on deal with Iran. Tankers cross through the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, we are seeing more access. We just saw that on real live-time maritime traffic. So here's a little update of what happened today in the stock market.
The war, the oil market, Trump threatening to resume strikes in Iran. You saw this in coming days. I hope we don't have to do the war, he says, but we may have to give them another big hit. What did you make of that?
We're back to square one, right? We've kind of been down this road before. You saw yesterday afternoon, Trump came out on Truth Social and said, I had instructed the military to be prepared to strike Iran.
And I don't know why this isn't playing. Oh, that's wonderful. Nothing works. Don't you love 2026? Oil plunges as Trump says the U.S. is in final stages on deal with Iran. Tankers cross through the Strait of Hormuz. Unfortunately, that video is just not playing, so we'll just continue reading on. Oil prices fell by the wildest margin in more than a month after Wednesday, after President Trump said the U.S. is in its final stages of reaching a deal with Iran, and several tankers moved to transit the Strait of Hormuz, which we, again, were able to see when we just looked at the maps there. Futures on Brent crude, the international benchmark, lost roughly 4.6% of trade to trade slightly above $106 per barrel, while those on U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude fell 4.3% to trade below $100. So again, that's more of the Brent crude and how that kind of impacted things. Trump's comments to reporters on Wednesday suggest that the U.S. was nearing a deal with Iran, and it came after the president called off military action he said had been slotted for the previous day. We're in the final stages of Iran. We'll see what happens, Trump said on Wednesday, as reported by Agence France and France Press. Either have a deal, or we're going to do some things that are a little bit nasty, but hopefully that won't happen. So again, Trump is already threatening more attacks on Iran as we continue going into all of this. Okay, so we have to also pay attention to crypto and what's happening with crypto. Lots of big news in the crypto market today. And again, at the end of the day, the Clarity Act, we are waiting for that to pass on July 4th, which is only a few months away, or a couple months away from now. So we're hoping to see real success with that. But, you know, Senator Loomis has already said that that's what we're pretty much looking at. Okay, so the Fear and Greed Index is at 39 for crypto right now. Bitcoin's hanging around $77,378.98. Ethereum's at $2,124. You have XRP at $1.36. You have Solana at $85.89. Tron at 35 cents. Dogecoin at 10 cents. Hyperliquid at $54.26. That's been up 12% in the last 24 hours. And in the last 7 days, Hyperliquid has been up 39.4%. So pretty big there. We also have Zcash at $673.33, Cardano at 24 cents, Monero at $402.53, Chainlink at $9.60, and then Stellar Lumens at 14 cents. So again, this entire market is only beginning, in my opinion, and I think there's going to be massive upward trajectory when it comes to the entire crypto market. Lots of potential, and we're going to be seeing it, right? And again, a little bit of proof of that is that the White House already passed a lot of stuff. Okay, so fact sheet, President Donald Trump integrates financial technology innovation into regulatory frameworks, breaking barriers from financial technology innovation and competition. Today, President Donald Trump signed an executive order to streamline regulations and promote financial innovation and collaboration between financial technology fintech firms, federally regulated financial institutions, and federal financial regulators. The order directs federal financial regulators to review existing regulations, guidance, supervisory practices, and application processes to identify those that could be updated to facilitate innovation and greater competition in the provision of financial services while maintaining safety and soundness. The order directs the regulators informed by those reviews to take steps to encourage innovation by and growth of fintech firms and federally regulated institutions of all sizes. The order asks the Federal Reserve to conduct the same regulatory review and evaluate the legal, regulatory, and policy frameworks governing access to reserve bank payments accounts and payment services by uninsured depository institutions and non-bank financial companies. The order asks the Federal Reserve to report on the findings regarding legal authorities of the Federal Reserve to extend access to Federal Reserve payment accounts and payment services by uninsured depositors and non-bank fintechs. Options for expanding such access, subject to appropriate risk management requirements, legal impediments that preclude direct access, along with the legislative and regulatory options that could enable such access while mitigating risks, and authorities and policies, both at the Reserve Bank and Federal Reserve Board of Governors levels, governing access to Reserve Bank payment accounts and services. So, pretty big. Again, with this Clarity Act, we're seeing it all come into motion. I don't see that that's not going to happen. It does appear that we have some big things happening with crypto. The question is, when is it going to happen? And when it does happen, will it actually impact the markets, or is it going to be a bunch of hopium? Is it going to do nothing to the market at the end of the day? I think that you're probably going to see somewhere in the middle. I think you'll see a lot of price increase, but a lot of that hopium, people are thinking that the prices are going to go way too high. But we will see. We will see.
Wyoming workers and
Senator
producers
Loomis.
strengthen our grid and support the reliable energy systems that make economic growth and national security possible. We all know that our new embrace of technology, including artificial intelligence, the data centers that support them, the advanced manufacturing that comes from it, and Bitcoin mining, all of these demand reliable base load power, and that's the key, the base load power we need to continue to grow. The U.S. needs more reliable generation, more infrastructure, and a diverse energy strategy that supports affordability, reliability, and long-term energy security.
Right.
Advanced nuclear energy must be part of that future.
And again, I think crypto is going to play a massive role in that entire movement. Okay. And so when we look at the obstacles, 4 hurdles facing the Senate crypto bill after the key vote. So this video kind of tells us more about kind of what's happening there. Hopefully it doesn't make us watch an ad. These videos are always choppy a little bit. Let's see. Will this actually work? I don't know why these don't play so well. A cryptocurrency regulation bill cleared a key early hurdle after advancing out of Senate Banking Committee last week, but the legislation still faces several obstacles that could endanger its success on the Senate floor and beyond. The Clarity Act, which aims to provide guidelines for financial regulators on how to regulate the crypto industry, cleared the Senate panel Thursday with the support of all GOP members and 2 Democrats. Despite the bipartisan nature of the vote, the lack of support among several crypto-friendly Democrats, Elizabeth Warren, as well as outstanding concerns from influential outside groups, could prove difficult for the bill to overcome. Democrats remain on the fence. The Clarity Act received support from 2 Democrats on the Senate Banking Committee after last-minute maneuvering to secure a bipartisan vote, but the measure will need at least 8 Democrat votes on the floor. When Senator Ruben Gallego and Angela Also Brooks voted for the bill at Thursday's markup, both warned they could pull their support down the line. I want to be absolutely clear, my vote today is a vote to keep working in good faith, Also Brooks said. It does not mean that I'll be voting for the passage of the Clarity Act on the floor because we still have so much work to do. Yeah, so they keep saying that this bill is going to pass. Honestly, at the end of the day, they're probably going to keep kicking this can down the street. You know, they're going to keep waving it as long as possible and basically, manipulating the markets because, again, as Senator Johnson said, we all need to be able to make money from insider stock trading in crypto. So you're seeing that with the Trump meme coin and all of that. Again, think about what's actually happening. So you have to be able to be smart and identify and analyze all of this the right way. After the Genius Act, for me, I can't take a handshake. Blunt Rochester said Thursday, I want the work to happen in the committee. The Genius Act, which passed Congress last July, created a regulatory framework for one type of crypto known as stablecoins. Stablecoins are a digital token that are tied to more stable asset like the U.S. dollar. Again, so that would be like Ripple. Ripple XRP is a stablecoin, and Bitcoin has its own version of stablecoins, as well as Ethereum. Blunt Rochester supported the Genius Act in the Senate Banking Committee last year, but said he wanted to see further changes to the bill. She ultimately did not vote for the measure on the Senate floor. A key concern for Democrats with the Clarity Act is that the lack of provision or take President Trump and family's wide-ranging influence to Bitcoin mining. That's exactly what I was saying, right? The Trump World Liberty Financial, and then you have the Trump meme coin where there's like billions of dollars made in one night. Crazy. Perhaps the toughest issue of all, we have all come close but have not finished an agreement on ethics guardrails for elected officials, all elected officials, Gallego said Thursday. So again, that next markup date is going to be July 4th for all of this, and that's when we're really going to see what's happening next. We need real enforceable standards, what is and not acceptable for someone who holds the public trust and shouldn't be able to profit off of an industry that they enforce or regulate. Law enforcement warns against blanket exemption for developers. Law enforcement. I'm law enforcement and I'm pro crypto. And honestly, crypto is the future at the end of the day. It's going to probably save the entire American GDP, most likely. Another major hurdle for the Clarity Act is the opposition from law enforcement groups to a provision providing protection to software developers. The provision declares that developers do not control customer funds and are not considered money transmitters. Law enforcement groups have argued this is an overly broad exemption that would make it hard for them to track criminal activity on crypto platforms. Well, that's kind of the point, law enforcement. Kind of the point is decentralization and being able to have some kind of separation from the banks despite this, deal that has to be made for the banks. So when we look at all of that, that's kind of what's happening with crypto. What do I think is going to happen? I think that we're going to see the Clarity Act pass. Again, the question is just when, right? And so we think right now they're saying, Senator Loomis is saying that it could be, it could be July 4th, Independence Day of this year. We will see the next markup date where they need to have a lot of the ethics conversations and whatnot, and the resolutions voted on upon that. And then at the same time, we're also going to be seeing what's going to be happening with all of the different, movements and whether or not it will get to the president's desk. That's the entire thing, right? There just seems to be all these things that continue going in the way of crypto. On the other hand, gold is up $4,543, or gold is up at $4,545.03. And again, if we look at the silver market, is $75.90. Looking at all of this, you can see today, $35.24 up 78%, or 0.78%. And in the last 38 days, however, we've lost $193 in that gold market. But overall, in the last 20 years, the market's been up 586.58%. So gold is always something good to invest in. It's always a good hedge against inflation. And ultimately, that's why I like to cover the gold prices. And you should own a lot of gold. And ultimately, that's kind of where people need to be at. That's where the future could lie, is not just gold, but digital gold and Bitcoin, the Bitcoin Reserve, XRP, acting as that payments bridge, allowing Bitcoin to exist, basically. All of that is going to be very positive for crypto. Okay, so Elon Musk had retweeted CNBC's post of Jeff Bezos. What do you guys think about this clip? Now let's start getting into the X algorithm. We'll start analyzing some of these other markets too before we get into more X videos, actually. And it's just not going to load. Isn't that awesome? Come on.
If I do my job right, the value to society and civilization from my for-profit companies will be much, much larger than the good that I do with my charitable giving. And I think this is an important point to make, because people forget, or they sometimes don't see, that when you create something like Amazon and you're saving, I get letters from new mothers all the time that say, like, I have no idea what I would be doing right now if I didn't have Amazon, thank you. Or what we did in the pandemic when people could really see what an essential service we provided to them. And so, this is, Amazon creates tremendous value. And by the way, all companies are creating value of some kind. That's, if I do my...
Honestly, you want to know what I want to see? I want to see Amazon develop a service that brings me my groceries. They had something years ago where they were going to have these drones deliver all of your groceries to you. I thought that was pretty cool. At the end of the day, one of the things I hate doing most is grocery shopping. I freaking hate it. Not a fan of it. I don't like being out in public, really, if I can avoid it. I'm isolated like that. And I don't like going to the grocery store. So it's like, hey, Amazon, if you're going to actually build something awesome, how about you start doing my shopping for me, right? Get your little Amazon robots to start going shopping for me. But this is the full interview if you're interested in that. This is from CNBC's full interview. And again, what Jeff Bezos is saying here is that there does need to be freedom to grow as a private company. Why? Because, again, think of yourself as a business owner, and then you have the government who's constantly riding your coattails and not allowing you to actually grow as a business owner, right? As an entrepreneur. whether it's private equity, venture capital. I'm a big fan of Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk because I think they're true innovators. And I also think they push back against the government tyranny that we have. A lot of poor people, they like to believe that the government's just going to solve all of your problems when it's like there needs to be a free market, somewhat, not a free market, but like there actually needs to be capitalism. We do need to have a capitalist country. There does need to be a way that people can actually grow their own companies and be entrepreneurial and have that freedom and flexibility outside of just a job. Otherwise, you end up living in a country where it's corrupt and socialism and the government controls everything. And, you know, you're getting the worst people who are getting handed everything. Everything that you see today in America is essentially socialism. The government has more control than the entrepreneurs. And so some people will say, well, eat the rich, eat the rich. We hate the rich. We hate the entrepreneurs. They don't need more money. They don't pay any taxes. It's like actually billionaires pay like the most taxes. And on the same level, the billionaires also push against the government and a lot of that tyranny that doesn't allow you to have any kind of business of your own. The government wants you basically being given the government wants to give you things based on how much of a slave that they're going to be able to make you into. Okay? So really, you're only as free as the government allows you to be. But with a private company or with any kind of business of your own, basically now there's no capped income and you have the freedom to really build anything you want. And so you have to play the game, right? And so this is why I like what Jeff Bezos said. And Amazon has been a highly successful company with a lot of what they've been doing. So I'm very pro private equity, and I'm very pro venture capital. I'm pro capitalism because America is about capitalism. Our founding fathers started off as capitalists. So that's something to take extreme important note of. Okay, so again, one more clip on the Clarity Act and its path to the president's desk. Loading. Always going to give me a problem.
Expect then from the Clarity Act. You're in the Senate Banking Committee. You've got the Clarity Act. You've got Kevin Warsh. You've been busy with all of these two major issues. We're expecting Kevin Warsh to get sworn in on Friday. Is that your expectation? And what is your expectation for the Clarity Act?
Well, my expectation for the Clarity Act is that it'll ultimately pass the Senate and will either go to conference or one of the bodies will accept the other's version. But I think we're on a path to having this signed into law this summer. That's optimistic, but
That's what a lot of the senators are saying. They're saying about August.
It's likely, and having it on the president's desk, which will be a huge win for the president and a huge win for, I think, the kind of innovation we need in the United States to stay at the forefront. In terms of Kevin Warsh, I think it's a great pick by the president. I was honored to be able to introduce.
Kevin Warsh is very pro crypto. He hasn't been like totally outspoken on it, but Kevin Warsh is a big fan of crypto, Bitcoin, and what can be done with the entire digital assets space.
Introduce him at his hearing, and this is going to be a new day in the Federal Reserve. I think he's unique.
And if you want, go check out Charles Hoskinson's video on YouTube. He just posted something now. I just got a notification. He's the CEO of Cardano, ADA Cardano, the ticker ADA, the company Cardano. I like Charles Hoskinson. I was just letting you know because a notification popped up on my phone. But he's a smart CEO, and he's pretty good with the entire crypto space. But he hasn't been happy because he believes the company Ripple and XRP is going to get a lot more of the favor than these other tokens.
Position to be able to lead. It's a tough hand. There's no doubt about it. But he's going to bring new thinking, creative thinking, and I think a steady hand to the Fed.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree. Ultimately, that's kind of where things are going. Okay. So when we look at here, I wanted to also look at some of the global venture capital outlooks and the latest trends with that and kind of what's changing in this market. Because we don't cover private equity or venture capital enough, but we ought to start doing that. I like to cover all of the markets possible, and actually I want to, be able to show you what's actually happening in all different sectors, all different markets, because that is the best way as an analyst I can give you everything that's actually happening in regards to open source intelligence and all of that. Global venture capital outlook, the latest trends. Global venture funding rose in the fourth quarter of 2025, contributing to the best annual total since 2021. So this might be a little bit older, but when we look at this, you're kind of seeing that trajectory of where things are likely to go and what it's likely to look like, right? So again, we also have the average deal sizes, giving you that kind of information here, how fast that's going. We have CVC deals, kind of what that looks like on a chart, number of corporate and CVC BAT deals by quarter. That's pretty good. And then number of corporate and CVC investors by quarter. 4 and 16. So those numbers are going down. And again, why? Because there's less money in the market, right? So we also have to look at the AI funding and who's getting the most funding, percentage of early and seed stage in 2022, 2024. So look at this. So $8 billion back in 2022, but here in 2025, last year of 2025, there was only like 134. So you think about it. That's pretty crazy. 1.45 billion. We had 2.72 billion. And then in 2025, it was 4.64 billion. But NVIDIA is pretty much dominating the entire AI sector at the moment. Claude is going to be dominating the AI sector for sure. And then we also have to look at what's really happening with all of these different markets here. So this is more the private equity activity is the lowest I've seen in my 45-year career from THL partner Scott Sperling.
Talk about the markets, the Fed, the deal-making environment, and the private equity landscape. Joining us right now to do just that is Scott Sperling. He is the co-CEO of private equity firm THL Partners. And Scott, it's great to have you here on set with us.
Always good to be here.
Man, there's so much to dig through right now.
Sure.
Watching how strong the markets have been, you always wonder what private equity is doing in those times. On the one side, it's great if you want to sell off some of your companies and push them back into the markets. On the other side, maybe it's tough to find deals to figure out what you're going to be doing.
I think that's exactly right. And what we've seen over the course of the last really 36 months is an environment where it's been hard to both buy or sell.
Because there's less cash in the market. People don't have as much money today because of this Iran war, especially.
Probably at any point in the 45 years I've been doing this.
Really?
We've recently sold a number of companies. They tend to be ones that sell into an AI type trend. You may have seen the announcement of Lattice Semiconductor buying our company AMI. Is an example of that. The ability to acquire companies has been harder because there were a lot of things that were bought in the 21 period in particular, but let's call it late 20 into 22, at valuation multiples that do not reflect today's world, particularly in the software side. That's been obviously covered a lot. Right. And so people are holding on to assets to try to grow into valuation. Private equity makes up a large part of the seller universe, not just the buyer universe for companies, given how much we own and the fact that we tend to be transient owners. And so that's a source of supply that's been difficult. We've been able to buy divisions of large public companies. There have been some go privates. And I think that will continue to be an area that we're going to see more activity. And I think you'll see the pickup on the private equity side in terms of both selling and, recently we bought companies in the pharma services space, which we think is a beneficiary of AI. That is something that the market is still trying to figure out, but I think they're going to find that AI is a major driver for life science of every sort, both pharma services, for the pharma companies themselves, and as somebody involved with a large healthcare provider, I think it's going to be the savior of our healthcare system in the United States.
And I think that's very possible. Artificial intelligence, I mean, a lot of people are anti-AI. I'm anti-AI data center on land. I don't like on-land data centers. I think that's going to crush the entire market. We can put those offshore just like we do an oil rig, right? And it would have no problem. China's already doing that. I keep saying that in every episode. We need to put a lot of these AI data centers. I'm all for the innovation of it and all of the GDP it can bring, but we can make the same amount of GDP if we're putting these offshore, right? If China can do it when they're always in a famine, then we can do it when we're the United States. Okay, and ultimately, again, what did he say? He said AI is going to be the biggest, basically, driver of companies that are being bought and sold when it comes to private equity. So if you're smart, you're looking into the AI sector. You're thinking about how you can use AI to actually solve real-life problems, right? Gold Shark Media, for example, like my company. I had started Gold Shark Media AI back a few years ago. And what we really do, this is essentially a CRM that has everything in it. It's like the everything CRM. And again, this allows you to basically, you can do everything you need. You can add your leads. You can also add them through CSV files. You have your pipelines. You have lead capture forms, chat widgets. Again, all of this stuff. Calendly, you can just link it right up. You're able to prospect. Again, you can just prospect, find companies right on Google. Just do it right from here. Proposals, you have niche templates with, again, who do we work with? Who do we help? Roofers, HVAC, med spas, agencies, realtors, and e-commerce. So we're really working with pretty much everybody, right? And again, you got a ton of different templates you can use here. So you have full templates for outreach and sending messages, all of this stuff. Very important things that if you're going to run a business, you got to be good at doing it. Client workspaces. So if you're a marketing agency, Gold Shark Media, we're kind of a marketing agency ourselves, then we can run your entire business right in here. You can run your client's business right in here. Again, everything's nice and organized for you. You got invoices and payments. Okay, you got everything in one place. All your tasks that you need to create. You have your notifications letting you know what's going on. Communications, again, you have more templates for communications and who you're going to reach out to, review requests, stale lead re-engagement, friendly check-ins, speed response, value first response, value bump follow-up, respectful breakups, all this stuff. I had built this software specifically for small businesses, and really businesses that are trying to run all of their online business and that omnipresence from one place, okay? Our social publisher is also here, so upgrade to Pro and you'll be able to use that. But again, you can integrate your Google business, your Facebook, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, X, YouTube, TikTok, you name it. All of the social media that you need to add, very important. And then you can plan all your content out. You can schedule your content, see everything you published. Got a bunch of templates here as well. Full of templates, all of this. Manage your own team in one place. These are all just the different dummy accounts I have to show you guys exactly what this is all about. Your pipeline gives you all your data here and where you're at, what you need to know. Your attribution and ROI, that gives you everything you need to know there. Your executive summary. I also built an ROI calculator as a part of this software for you specifically. And again, how much revenue is slow following up costing you? So again, what we focus on is follow-up. We focus on making sure that you're actually contacting those leads and staying on top of it. And it tracks all of this. This entire software is tracking not just, a CRM, but it's tracking all of your real customer relationship management data. Okay. A little bit better than a CRM. And you can white label it and basically make it your own, right? Put your label on top of this entire software and make it your own. But this tells you everything as far as your additional monthly revenue could go, your annual upside, all of that. Pretty good stuff. And you get a 7-day free trial with this as well. And then on top of that, you have your Google reviews requests and all of this. So turn every one deal into a 5-star review, automatically tracked, templated, and followed. We have our AI assistant feature here. Again, that's basically our little chatbot. We're optimizing a lot of that. You have your AI app builder. So again, if you want to build a lead capture form, you want to build an ROI calculator for your clients to use, client intake forms, landing page sections, status dashboards, interactive checklists, quick estimators, booking request widgets, you name it. It's all here. And you can even run your own website here. Again, your domain, manage your DNS settings from right here. Get your registrar. Again, DNS verifications and connection status, SSL/HTTPS certificate. So you're actually going to have real security. Okay, you're going to have real good security. You're going to be safe. And again, who is this for? Roofing companies, HVAC, med spas and clinics, law firms, marketing agencies, home service companies, real estate professionals like myself. I'm also a realtor. I can help you out if you're looking for Michigan real estate, right? Well, we can do it right inside of here. And then your e-commerce brands, B2B inquiry hubs. You have integrations, all of the different integrations, Calendly, Slack, SendInGrid, Twilio SMS, Zoom. You have Google Meet, MailChimp. Again, all of these different resources that we have plugged right into this. And then, of course, your Google business account. And we have automations that are all pre-built for you right here. Ton of automations, boom, right here. And it just sets up the entire workflow for you. So it's pretty cool. And at the end of the day, you also have your activity logs showing you what you did, all your scheduling, your CRM setup for your clients, referral center. We have all of this for you. Again, this is affiliate partner. If you want to be an affiliate partner with us, revenue share on conversions, custom partner links, dedicated account manager, you name it, it's all right here. Okay. And if you want to white label the software, this is probably one of my favorite things about this software that I've built. Replace Gold Shark Media branding with your agency name and logo on proposals, client proposals, and booking pages. Send branded HTML emails via Gmail. Present a fully professional agency-ready experience to every client. So again, everything you're seeing on the screen right now with Gold Shark Media AI, put your company's logo right here. Now you own this software, right, as a white labeled software. This tells you everything you need to know about it. Proposal share pages, branded PDF proposals, branded email templates, client proposals, booking and scheduling pages, email sender name, and then, of course, your custom domain reference. You have your trust center. So this tells you, this pretty much handles all the different questions you might have, handles everything you need. So your launch readiness, you got your checklist right here to make sure that you're on track and getting things done, making sure that you're getting the most out of the software. You have your help center, any kind of questions you have, basically gives you the answers right here to all of these, right? It's pretty nice. And then at the end of the day, your basic settings. So again, you can just set up your product tour. Again, this gives you everything you need to know here. This will tell you everything that you're going to need to know. So it's a powerful software, Gold Shark Media AI. And again, at the end of the day, click the link in the description below if you're interested in this. But at the end of the day, let's move on. So again, we also have the United States housing market at $436,523 as the medium sale price. We have 415,907 homes sold. So again, the market's pretty flat right now, isn't it? Right. So what do you think about the real estate market? National average 30-year fixed mortgage rate right now is at about 6.2%. And again, I mentioned before that I'm also a real estate agent. So if you're an out-of-state investor somewhere and you're looking to move to Michigan, this is where I can help you the most. Okay, so I can help you find, we got a lot of nice real estate here in Michigan. A lot of people are moving up to Michigan today because we have a lot of new development kind of coming, new construction, a lot of powerful stuff. Okay, ultimately, people are interested in the new models, all these new models. Okay, this is 1.079 million. This is in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. I can definitely help you with any of these. Again, this is in Lake Orion, Michigan, 1.0499 million. And this is right off of a lake here, as you can see as we're scrolling through these different listings. See the living room, get yourself a nice little bachelor pad. Then at the end of the day, you also have good investing. If you're a multifamily investor, then $209,900. Again, this little home right here where we're going through the listings, also nice. A lot of people are interested in what you can get with Michigan real estate. And so I get a lot of contacts on it. And ultimately, if you want to work with me, then click the link in the description below, BrendanEckerRealty.com, or you can email me at brendan.ecker@exprealty.com. And I can get you started through the entire process. I work with both buyers and sellers and investors. I truly like to focus more on commercial real estate, triple net leases and things like that, buying businesses. But today we're showing you a little bit of these single-family residential. Again, $750,000. So typically, if you didn't know, luxury real estate in Michigan falls anywhere between the prices of $750,000 and up. Okay, but this is off of a lake. You got your nice little Michigan home front here. So we got a lot of nice real estate in Michigan to offer. It's a great place to come home to, right? Pure Michigan. Okay, so we are pretty advanced on solar panels. Prices are beginning to go down a little bit, I've been noticing, and people are getting more attracted to the market itself, right? This is $2.8 million in Fenville, Michigan. Again, get yourself a little bit of privacy and security, get yourself a little bit of that shoreline, that coastline kind of home, that Michigan vibe. This is really where you're going to get it, right? Fenville, Michigan. But I can help you get this property. You want to get any of these properties, you let me know. Again, Michigan real estate agent, Brendan Ecker. And if you are interested, visit BrendanEckerRealty.com and we'll hook you up, get you started. Just fill out the contact form. I'll get your email, or you can schedule a Zoom call with me right through the Calendly link here and just read everything that you're going to need. Grab a notebook and schedule it up, and we will talk, and I'll help you get through the entire process. And then lastly, last little shameless plug here, if you are looking to become a real estate agent yourself, then I created an online course for real estate agents. It's relevant for all 50 states, 1,300 plus real estate practice questions for the state exam, preparing you for that. Ebooks, lesson chapters, interactive videos, PDFs for maximum value, everything. Okay, a lot of people like it. A lot of people are interested in it. It's $99. You pay once and you're done forever. You don't have to pay a monthly subscription. You don't have to worry about that. It's $99. You pay for it and it's done. And then you have access to 1,300 practice questions that I sourced from the most nationally trusted sources. Again, everything that you're going to need for what you're going to be expecting when you take that state licensing exam. Okay, and a lot of people get tripped up on that state exam. They're not able to really pass and get through all of it with that. Then, of course, follow me on Substack. If you're interested in reading some of my articles, seeing past episodes, you want to help support me as a content creator and a lot of our news, a lot of the open source intelligence, the reports that I make. Again, this was just the other day. I had made this entire report specifically for OSINT analysis. I created all of these images myself: Strait of Hormuz, traffic density, AIS vessel activity, and strategic choke point monitoring. If you want to support me, then subscribe on Substack for the paid, and you'll be able to pay me, help me out with growing this information, building this into an actual network system. Okay, but this is really what I look at. I'm constantly looking at the markets. I'm constantly looking at flight tracking. I'm constantly following what's happening in real time information and intelligence. Okay, and then I basically correlate that data, and I create actual a verification system for the information and the news. So we're not just blindly reading news. We're actually building some kind of pattern here. We're building a real system that can actually be trusted for you, the audience. That's what's most important to me. Okay. So again, let's look at any breaking news that happened here while we were on the stream, before we wrap everything up here. And again, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe if you support the information. I know today was a little bit more boring. Wasn't a lot of news that happened today, so it was a little bit more of a slow news day. So we focused more on the market analysis and all of that. This is the greatest video I've ever seen. No notes. The lifeless clanker carcass just laying there. No crowd reaction. Anything. Just Billie Jean until his lifeless shell is shamefully dragged off. Purely amazing. So that's kind of funny. So again, I'm probably going to get copyright for this. I hope I don't. I'm going to try to keep this volume really low. But this was funny. So again, this robot is essentially doing the Michael Jackson. It's trying to do the dance. And this robot completely falls on his face here in a moment. Trying to do the moonwalk. He nailed the moonwalk. Tesla bot nailed the moonwalk, but just lost his footing a bit, and now he's dead. Again, this is just video footage of these Tesla bots and how non-perfect they really are. And then the engineer goes and drags him off. He should have done this guy should have done a moonwalk off the stage, shouldn't he have? That would have been the most aura thing ever. To see a human being getting the moonwalk right as you pull this robot off of the freaking stage. That would be like gold. Okay? But this is the beginning eras of AI. And again, these things are eventually going to be more effective than the human. It's crazy to think about that, isn't it? Probably within a few years. 3 years from now when we're doing this show, we're going to be like literally getting banned by actual robots, and we're going to be policed by actual robots. There'll be no more real police officers. All right, on to the next story. South Africa looks like a zombie apocalypse now. This is the same country that gave you the first heart transplant under completely different governance, as we all know now. Let that sink in. So again, this is South Africa. How trashy, right? Literally trashy. Like literally there's trash on the floor, is what I'm saying. Crazy. We can never let this happen to society. It's really that simple. So again, now we're analyzing some of these X videos and the X algorithm. But this is South Africa. But this is what we can never allow to happen to America. And don't forget that Elon Musk is South African. He's a South African. Look at what they've done to his homeland, And don't forget that South Africa used to be Rhodesia, right? We used to have Rhodesia and used to be a highly white population. Just something interesting to kind of take note of. And now it's just complete garbage there. Literally. Poverty everywhere. There's trash everywhere on the floor. Looks like there's a lot of fraud that happens too. South Africa. A lot of Indian populations. Crazy.
Are you saying that or are you saying there's a hole?
So yeah. The perks of diversity are so great that it can make your town literally a dumpster. You may not treat Polish citizens who have committed no crime in this May. In the democratic world, we do not abuse and gloat over people in custody. We demand justice for our citizens and consequences for you. So again, everybody's commenting on the Israeli video of these Gaza freedom fighters, people who were trying to send aid to the people of Gaza. God bless their souls. But now they're likely going to be tortured in this Medigo prison. That's typically where they'll send these kind of people. And it looks like the Medigo prison as what I'm looking at here. A lot of it looks like that. So again, we saw that post. Gladiator, but instead of Russell Crowe, it's Elliot Page. Oh, this is funny.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
This is hilarious.
Is that why you were here?
I don't want to get copyright, so I'm ending out the music there at the end. But it's just hilarious. That's funny. The fascist history of Ben Gvir.
Incitement to racism and supporting
Israeli
a terrorist
Ben Gvir.
organization. Ben Gvir lives in an illegal settlement in Hebron. Ben Gvir's mentor, Rabbi Meir Kahane, established the Kach movement.
This is our country. It is not theirs. I want the Arabs out. They must go.
He was committed to the use of specifically Jewish violence to effect such changes.
If I were the Minister of Defense, there wouldn't be one Arab left here.
Are you encouraging your people to go out on
Again,
the
this
streets
is
and to
the
attack Arabs?
history of Ben Gvir and the rabbi of who he looked up to.
Anything imaginable and anything possible which will encourage the Arabs to get out of this country. Does that mean attacking? Anything possible.
I want them out alive, and if not alive, dead.
Kahane's views were so extreme that the US classified Kach as a terrorist organization in 1997. And Kahane was the inspiration for Baruch Goldstein, another settler from the Hebron settlements who murdered over 20 innocent Palestinians in cold blood.
Goldstein's portrait still hangs in Hebron on the wall of Itamar Ben Gvir.
Crazy. So when we look at that, that's pretty wild when you see what's really happening. So now we'll look at some of the bookmarks and some of the things that I was paying attention to and noticed. This isn't even a teen takeover. Let's call it what it is. This is I don't agree with all of this. This is a black takeover in Norfolk, Virginia, Sunday night. 0 arrests, cops worthless, White House careless. Are we just expected to live like this from now on? What do you think about this video? More Antifa kind of action.
Yeah, fire department.
Now again, I'm not blaming any kind of race or anything here, but it is interesting observations when you see all these videos on X. And honest to God, I try to avoid playing a lot of these videos I see on X because I would have YouTube thinking that I'm a racist and I'm not. But I am playing these because I have to outline this at some degree. I mean, this is definitely unacceptable for society, you know. And when you look at the complete violence, you know, complete and total anarchy. Like, where are the parents? Where are the parents? That guy looked kind of white, I guess. But most of these videos that I see, it's just complete chaos and anarchy on the streets. Okay, and I thought this was funny. Saving the Epstein clients. And again, this is like it's supposed to be a play on Saving Private Ryan. So that's kind of funny. So again, we're just kind of looking at some of the big X posts that I had seen that. But we're going to we'll cover some of these videos tomorrow, and we'll get more into this news tomorrow. We're going to watch some of these videos tomorrow. But at the end of the day, we're going to call it a day early because I'm running out of data over here on my laptop. But what do you think about all of the news happening in the Strait of Hormuz, in the Iran war, the maritime traffic, and what that's telling us? Do you think the Iran war will continue? Do you think that the Israelis will continue to buy American politicians? Do you think they will buy elections the way that they just did with Ed Gallerin? Whether or not you are a fan of Al Gallerin or a fan of Trump-Massie, it is true. $16.3 million is a lot of money, and it is literally a historical broken record for how much money has been spent on one political candidate just in a GOP primary. Very interesting. So what is really happening? What do you think about Donald Trump saying that Israel, I have 99% of support in Israel. Maybe I should go be the prime minister, he says. What do you think about that statement? And then here on American soil, he has about 35% support. And this comes from a 3-time Trump supporter. And at the end of the day, it's just, listen, you know, what are we getting the mass deportations? No. Are we really getting, are we getting crypto regulations? Maybe in the future. Trump wants it. We understand that the Democrats are really trying to block that. But ultimately, what is the future of America when we continue these endless wars and when the gas prices are at like $8 a gallon in some states, California, over here in Michigan, they're like $5 a gallon. And then at the same time, you also have to think about the price of eggs. in a lot of state reaching like $13, and that's even going higher. And so what do you think about all of the markets? What do you think about all of the news today? And Trump-Massie's loss against Ed Gowron, what do you think about all of it? The Ukraine-Russia war. Do you think Russia is in the wrong, or do you think Ukraine is in the wrong? Who is going to end this war? Do you think President Xi and Vladimir Putin are going to work together to end both this Iran war and their respective wars? Do you think China will take Taiwan? There's so many questions going on in open source intelligence and everything that we're looking at in the news today. But ultimately, you decide, right? The flow of information really depends on you and where you decide to disperse this information and whether or not you decide to share it. And hopefully you do. And smash the like button, share, subscribe. It will help grow this channel, and it will help me continuing to do this because I do love bringing you the news. I do love covering a lot of the newest markets. And tell me what's most interesting to you. You know, what do you think I should cover most often? What do you think I missed? What did I not cover today? I want to cover everything. We covered the markets. We covered crypto today. We covered private equity sector. We covered real estate. Again, I know it was a little bit dry, but there just wasn't a lot of news today, right? There just wasn't. So ultimately, what are we missing? What is America? Where does America go next, and how do we get to that future? So with that being said, I have nothing further. Be sure to stay safe, stay prudent, stay powerful, and stay wealthy, and stay successful. God bless.